Hello everyone, welcome to Hearts of Iron 4. Paradox was kind enough to send me this game, so I'm going to go and make a full series on it. There's no requirement to do so, but I will anyways, because Paradox games are a lot of fun. So, I went ahead and played through the tutorial, then I played a little bit of Nationalist Spain after I played through the tutorial, and what I decided on for this series is we're going to be starting in 1936. So if you don't know what Hearts of Iron 4 is, it is a World War II simulator. So you can either start pre-World War II, or you can start right as World War II breaks out. It's up to you. But it's a World War II simulator. So we're going to be jumping in at 1936. So pre-World War II, and we're doing this for a very specific reason, is we don't want to play as any of these countries. We're still going to be a major player in World War II, absolutely. But we're not going to start as a major player because they all have these special bonuses and very specific tech trees, and they're all very powerful, all of them. Well, instead, what we are going to do, we're going to jump in as Spain in World War II. Now, specifically, we're going to come in as democratic Spain in World War II. Now, this is particularly difficult because Spain goes through a civil war in 1936 when the game starts. It'll happen at some point in 1936. Between February and November, it'll break out, and we have to deal with this civil war. It's going to be very difficult, as civil wars are, and being on the Republican side, it's going to be even more difficult. But for our game here, we are playing on veteran to make things even more difficult than they already are, and removing the historical AI focuses. So that means we could potentially see a communist France. We could see a central power bloc develop in the Middle East. Who knows? Ultimately, the major powers all still have their very specific things that they can do, so history can only change so much. But you'd be surprised at different things that you can see happening. It's very interesting. So let's go ahead and jump into Spain. We start as Democratic Spain, and then we're going to enter World War II as Democratic Spain on the side of the Allies. Historically, Spain supported the Axis, although not openly. They did support the Axis, so we're taking a completely different historical route here. So, research slot available, so we have 3 different research bits we can do. Knowing we're going to be in a war soon, we want support weapons, so like machine guns would be good to be able to have. This is 1918 tech here. And Spain is in a very interesting predicament at the beginning of the game. So they don't have cars, which means they don't have tanks. And Civil War happens this year, which means it's not worth it to try and research any sort of vehicles. We're just not going to be able to get them out in time to make a difference in the Civil War. So what we do have is horse-drawn artillery. So let's go ahead and make our artillery a little bit stronger. And then to help everything from here on out, we're going to also be picking up electronic engineering, electronic mechanical engineering. It speeds up research. Among other things, it speeds up research. And that's something that we absolutely want to pick up right away. So we have some civilian factories. So these civilian factories are used to produce buildings. So we're going to start by producing more civilian factories. Now I know where the split more or less is going to happen. So we're going to produce civilian factories through here. And then we'll follow it up with military factories right behind them. So there we go. There's a whole bunch of factories set up. It's going to take quite a while before any of these finish. Construction takes a very long time. So I'm not going to go and queue up anymore. There's just no point. But we do have all this ready. It'll get working. This first one will be done. Doesn't have a specific... Oh, there's 20th of July. right? So it's going to take half a year to do the very first civilian factory. And that's with our current situation. That's going to change very soon. So we have some military factories. So first thing we want to do, we want to set up an interwar bomber production line. And then we want to look at what divisions we want to train. So we're going to do basic infantry division here. And they come with support artillery and engineer companies. So good for entrenchment, the engineer companies are. And then support artillery is different than line artillery. So line artillery you can put in here. So if I add, I can do artillery, and that's line artillery. Now I can't do that because I don't have any experience points. But this is line artillery versus support artillery. It really just comes down to how much artillery you add to the division. And we're sticking with support artillery here just because that's what it starts with. We don't want any of the other divisions right now. They just don't fit with what our need is going to be during the Civil War. So in the Civil War, we need to make sure that we can get something out. And getting one of these divisions that'll produce infinitely in Madrid, that will be beneficial. And trying to do any of this other stuff would just take too many resources, or it wouldn't be strong enough. This infantry brigade is not strong enough, for example. So we're not going to worry about any of the other ones, just infantry division. So in order to do that, we need line artillery, or not, we need artillery to put for support. Sorry. We need artillery, so up our artillery production, and then we need equipment. So support equipment never goes out of style. And then lots of infantry equipment as well. Lots and lots of infantry equipment. We'll go ahead and produce an infinite number of destroyers, 5 heavy cruisers. There we go. Set them to pop out at Valencia. That's where we'll have the fleet come out. And then we'll also queue up an interwar fighter for just later, just so we have it sitting in there ready to go, more than anything else. Our factories are going to be fairly limited early on, but getting these interwar bombers are going to be crucial in the upcoming Civil War. We'll have air superiority, so the bombers will be able to just bomb the enemy troops. That's going to be very useful. But speaking of the other aircraft, we're going to go ahead and tear down all these divisions. We don't need to have them sitting around right now. They're not overly useful. They're not important. So we'll keep them all in storage for now. That also puts people back into manpower, which doesn't really matter, but would end do that anyways. We're going to take our entire military here, so all of our army, we're going to put them into one division, or one army, I should say. There you go. We'll give it a commander, the only field marshal that we have, and then tell him to garrison in the southern regions and go take over Barcelona as well. So we're going to be garrisoning this area for safety. Just keep everyone together. Our navy, we're going to be pushing all together. So they're all going to come together. Then eventually we'll move them to Valencia as well. And then in order to support all this stuff that we're doing, we do need resources. So starting with oil, we're going to bring in some oil from the Netherlands. We're going to bring in some aluminum or aluminium, depending on where you're from France, and rubber from the UK. So we're trading civilian factories for production, basically. We're trading production for resources here. So we'll be having resources come in and go out throughout the entirety of the game. You can't stop exports unless you turn off your economy, basically. You shut down your borders. But you don't really want to do that because usually you're overproducing in one area, and that creates lots of exports. So we're exporting a lot of steel, and these steel exports more than pay for our oil, aluminum, and rubber imports. So usually you just want to go ahead and leave your economy to do its thing. There's one last thing we need to do to prepare for the Civil War properly. We need to set a national focus. So, knowing the Civil War is coming, we're going to start with a political effort. This will give us 120 political power. Political power is used predominantly for modifying your government. So, for example, you can switch to war economy. You can increase your conscription. You can also add research bonuses down in here. You can have different political advisors, military advisors, all sorts of stuff. So you need 150 minimum to do any of that. So we want the political effort immediately to give us some opportunities a little bit further down the line. So, with all of that being set up, we're good to go ahead and speed things up and get things rolling. So again, we're going to start trying to play as Republican Spain for the Allies. Now, the Civil War that's going to happen this year is going to be between communists and fascists, which means the democracy will be completely overthrown. So, creating a democratic Spain out of a communist or fascist government is difficult, but it is absolutely doable, and we will be doing that today. Well, not today. In a future episode, probably. The war shouldn't break out this early. We'll see. We'll see how the events line up. So right now... I did forget one thing. We also want to set up a convoy production line just to get that started sometime down the road. Go ahead and reduce you to 1. Go 2. So there we go. So you have convoys going. And what that's really going to do for us is just have this stuff sitting behind in case we need convoys down the line for whatever purpose. Usually you don't, but sometimes you want to give your convoys to your allies in war so they can use them, because sometimes your allies will run out of convoys. So having an extra stockpile of them will be nice. So what's really special about Hearts of Iron 4 is it counts by the hour. So you see in the top right is the current date and time. And it counts hour by hour. So sometimes this game can get a little slow, it can get a little tedious, but in wartime, the hour by hour is absolutely necessary. Outside of war, you can speed things up pretty quickly. I'm not going at speed 5, simply because I don't want to accidentally shoot by something that'll happen. Spain gets a lot of events early on in the game, so while it is a little boring to sit here and wait out for the events to happen, it's honestly much, much safer than to let an event shoot right past. Because the game does not auto-pause on events happening. It just doesn't, so you have to be prepared for that. One thing we can do to prepare for this upcoming Civil War, actually, is we can park some planes in Madrid. Whoop, there's an event. We'll talk about that in a sec. We'll park some planes in Madrid. Now, you don't want to activate these planes because they have a chance to break down, which will mean you'll lose planes before the war even starts. So we're just going to park them in there. They're going to be sitting in there, waiting and ready to go in Madrid. 50 fighters. So, the Spanish election of 1936. The Second Republic has proven to be a fragile existence. Manuel Azaña can be president with the backing of the Popular Front, a broad coalition of left-wing groups supported by Republicans, communists, and anarchists. But the right-wing opposition, encompassing conservatives, monarchists, and fascists, is also beginning to unite for the cause of bringing down the Popular Front. Whichever coalition falls apart, their opponents are likely to take advantage of their internal conflicts to launch a revolution. This election is not the final test Spain will have to endure to resolve this conflict. So, we either maintain the Popular Front, which makes communism popular, or we can unite the conservative groups under Falange, and public elections will not be held. That's what we're going to do here. We're going to shut down the public elections and throw someone new into power. So we immediately, on doing that, we immediately become fascist, nationalist Spain. Immediately. We are now nationalist Spain. So, gotta be careful. But this is the smart way to go. This is the way that we can get to being Republican Spain out of this. Out of fascism, we can spawn democracy. Honestly, that sounds a little weird. But it's true. It's absolutely true. So, now that the election has happened, the Civil War could kick off at any time. It could happen tomorrow. It could happen in November. We have no idea when it's going to happen. But at some point, a military coup, more or less, is going to happen with a complete political divide between communists and fascists. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. The communists have it hard. The communists are outmanned and outgunned. But we will be taking up the communist side after this. It's not going to be easy, but it's what we're going to do. So what we want to have finished before the Civil War breaks out is the political effort. And we did. Beautiful. Political effort is done. And the remilitarization of the Rhineland. So Germany put the troops in the Rhineland territory close to the French border in violation of the Treaty of Versailles. But people don't really care because, you know, the Germans are just walking into their own backyard. You know, it's like, yeah, whatever. It's not that big of a deal, right? Yeah, we all know how that ended up. Alright, so we finished our political effort. Now we're over 150 political power. That will come in handy very, very soon. So next, we're going to ignore the rest of this stuff. We're going to jump over. War is coming, and we know it. So what we can do is we can either jump down the army effort, or we can jump down the industrial effort. We're actually going to start with the army effort here. It gets us a research bonus for land doctrines. And land doctrines will be very, very powerful for us. Specifically because we are going to be very artillery focused as Spain. We don't have cars. So artillery is going to be our friend. So having that doctrine, the land doctrine, super early on, we're going to need that. Very much so. Now, how do we use this 150 political power? Everything in here will cost at least 150. So what we're going to do, we're going to add a political advisor. Democratic reformer. So, daily democracy support goes up by 0.1 per day. And then we get the event, move towards democracy. So we are nationalist, fascist Spain. And we are pushing for democracy. Is what's going to happen here. So we'll go ahead and start this event chain. And we will know that we're in the right. We can afford to allow our enemies to talk more openly. So the people can voice their support for democracy and form an opposition right off the bat. This is not going to stop the Civil War. In fact, it's going to make things worse. But things have to get worse before they're going to get better for Spain. So we're definitely going to make this all happen. So, but guys, that is actually going to go and end it for this episode. So we're going to probably get into the Civil War next time. It's probably when that's going to happen. And we will make democratic Spain after the war breaks out. So again, that's it. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with friends. The best you can do for the channel is share the video on Facebook and on Twitter. Thank you to Amphit for being a Patreon supporter. Patreon link is in the description down below. And thank you to Paradox again for sending me the game. I'm going to have a lot of fun making this challenging, very challenging series to make nationalist Spain into the Republic of Spain and really beat the crap out of the Italians and Germans. That's not going to be easy, but we'll do it. Again, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time with more Hearts of Iron 4. DFTBA.